So let's first talk about the first service which will allow us to decouple our applications, which is Amazon SQS, which stands for Simple Queue Service. So what's a queue? Well, say we are creating an SQS queue right here. What we enable us to do is to have producers send messages into that queue. And then it could be one producer, but it could be as well multiple producers. And then once the messages are stored in a queue, then they can be read by consumers who will be polling the queue. That means requesting messages from the queue. They will be polling the queue, and it could be one consumer, but it could also be multiple consumers. And in this example, once the consumer poll messages, they will share the work. So each consumer will get different messages. And when they're done processing a message, maybe, for example, to process a video, then they will delete the message from the queue and it will be gone. So in this mechanism, we have the producers sending messages into the queue and they're decoupled from the consumer reading the messages from the queue and processing them at different speed. So when you have an SQS, turns out that it is the AWS oldest offering. It's over 10 years old. It was one of the first services to appear as part of the AWS cloud. It is fully managed, so it's a serverless service. You don't provision servers, and it's used to decouple applications. So this is the exam tip. If you see decouple, then think of SQS. It will scale seamlessly from one message per second to tens of thousands of messages per second. And the default retention of the messages is 4 days, maximum of 14 days. So you need to process them within that default retention. There's no limit to how many messages can be in a queue. And then once the consumers read the messages, then they have to be deleted. So they're gone. There is low latency. We're talking about less than 10 milliseconds on publish and subscribe. And then consumers share the work to read messages and scale horizontally. So SQS can be used to decouple between your application tiers. So here's a classic solution architecture. We have our web servers and they're taking requests maybe through an application load balancer. They're served through EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group. And then, for example, say that our users want us to process some videos. Then instead of sending it directly to the video application, we can instead insert messages into an SQS queue. And then we will have a video processing layer made of an auto-scaling group with EC2 instances. And these EC2 instances will be reading from the SQS queue and processing our videos. The cool thing about it is that we can scale the second auto-scaling group independently from the first one. And this is why it's called decoupling. And on top of it, the scaling can happen based on how many messages, for example, there are in the SQS queue. And this will really allow us to have two layers, the web servers and the video processing, fully decoupled from the SQS queue and scaling independently. This will give us the best user experience and also the best cost efficiency and scaling concerns. So I hope you liked it. I will see you in the next lecture.